Once you get to one, you kind of know what to do, you know?
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today on what's sure to be another warm day in New Hampshire. I am John Hotchkiss, chairman of this TAC committee. As we introduce ourselves and as we speak today, I would remind you that we're being recorded. Please speak audibly and distinctly so that it can be properly heard. To my immediate left is Marilyn. If you go around the room, please.
Okay. Marilyn Barton with Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Dan Comeau with Strafford Regional Planning Commission.
Mark Ambrosi with Strafford Regional Planning.
Laurel Cox, Town of Lee.
Paul Lockwood, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services.
Lee Levine, Federal Highway Administration.
Wally Gunham, Madbury.
Jeremy LaRose, Coast.
Dave Sharple, City of Somersworth.
Ed Comeau, representing Brookfield.
Tammy Butt, SRPC.
And again, John Hotchkiss, representing the town of Middleton. Thank you. Next item, please. Staff communications from Marilyn.
Yes, I just wanted to remind everyone that last month I sent out recruitment letters to all the communities and agencies for the next couple of fiscal years, as that's when we do the recruitment every other year. I've been receiving in some, but if you know that you haven't been sent in, if you could just remind your agency or community that I'm still waiting on those.
Do we want to mention Wally?
Yes, and as I mentioned in a previous email, John has agreed to be our chairman for the upcoming year, and Wally Dunham has agreed to serve as vice chair for the next year. And I just want to thank them for their efforts for the next year to help us.
Thank you. We're looking at previous minutes for 2 meetings because at the last meeting we did not have a quorum, therefore we were not able to vote on any action. So before you are minutes from May 11th and June 1st. I would like to take each one separately. After you look at them, we'll entertain a motion to approve each one individually. Start with the May 11th one first.
So moved. May 11th.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay.
Second.
Any discussions, errors, or omissions in these minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of May 11th, say reply by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Next are the minutes from June 1st. Again,
I move they be approved.
Okay, I have a motion that they be approved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have to abstain because I wasn't part of the
All right,
TAC.
thank you. All right, ready for vote. All in favor of approving these minutes as read?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you. Next, still under item 3, action items, Intelligent Transportation Systems Architecture Plan. Recommendation to Policy Committee for approval. I believe Dan can speak.
Thanks,
Go
John.
from there. Thank you.
All right, the Intelligent Transportation Systems Architecture and Strategic Plan update. We have finished that update, and we have the final documents available on our website right now. Hopefully you got a chance to read the memo. It had the web link right to our website embedded in the memo. But let's see, I guess if you, just to kind of quickly show you where you can find it, if you go to our main page, which is just Strafford.org, click over here on this transportation tab, and then guiding documents, all the way down at the bottom. you'll find the different PDFs available. We have the architecture on the bottom, strategic plan, the final report, which basically summarizes the whole effort, and the final PowerPoint presentation, which was given by IBI Group, our consultant, on June 21st. At the very minimum, if you haven't really checked out any of this, I would recommend checking out the PowerPoint presentation. It's a very good summary of what went into the effort, who was involved, and of course the final projects and recommendations that came out of our discussions with TAC, policy, and various stakeholders across the region and state. But I just want to say thank you to all those participants who helped provide input to this. It's a great learning process for me, and I think we ended up with a great product. We're still in the process of developing the website. We're going to be having an architecture website and strategic plan website hosted hopefully somewhere on our webpage, either here or somewhere towards the top of the page. We're still working with our web designer on how best to work that into our website, but I guess I just wanted to give you a quick little sneak peek as to what that might look like. At least the strategic plan website, anyway. This is going to be something that's completely new. It's basically a Google Maps background that highlights the various locations of the ITS projects that were identified through this effort. So once this is active and live, you'll be able to simply click on, like right here, this is just a screenshot, but you'll be able to click on any project and up will pop this window. It's a little tough to see right here, but it provides all the information and rough cost estimates associated with the ITS. So that's just a quick sneak peek at the strategic plan. We think it's going to be a great little planning tool and visualization tool to see what we've actually identified in this update. So again, we've got final documents. They were at the bottom of our webpage. Hopefully you've all had a chance to either look at them or were involved in their creation. But I guess for today we're looking for TAC's recommendation to the policy committee to approve these documents. We've talked with Federal Highways, and I guess it's not necessary that the MPOs approve this. It's more so that we followed the right process and followed the statewide architecture, or really the national architecture, and followed the correct process, which we've done, and I haven't heard otherwise, so I hope we haven't done anything wrong. But I guess we wanted to go through the TAC and policy approval just to get that extra step of, get that stamp of approval, and we want to make sure that we give you guys credit because you did provide valuable input both on the TAC and policy side. So I guess we're looking for a recommendation for policy approval. Jeremy?
I move to approve the ITS architecture plan for approval of the policy committee as presented.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion? Go ahead.
For the public that's watching and also the public that's here, can you just very briefly explain what ITS means, what it is, and what the architecture is for?
Sure. The ITS it stands for Intelligent Transportation Systems, and it's a required document for MPOs, Metropolitan Planning Organizations. It's really an effort to help maximize efficiency on your roadway system, increase safety and efficiency. That's really the goal. So identifying areas that are in need of increased efficiency. Say if there's a large congested corridor and there might be some kind of ITS system that could help out that congested area, such as something as simple as signal coordination. This effort is to identify those needs and address or identify possible solutions to address those needs. So what we've done here is we've taken sort of a corridor approach. A lot of our ITS systems right now are on, interstates or, say Route 16. This effort, we were looking at more of the commuter routes like 125, 108, identifying congested areas and where ITS systems might be able to help relieve some congestion or increase safety. So, but I think the larger effort is to get everybody in the same room or stakeholders in the same room to make sure that everybody's needs are being met. And I guess in a nutshell, that's really it. It's really an effort to maximize your investment into the transportation system rather than, say, doing more I-93 expansions. Maybe keep a road the same, basically the same geometry it is, not extending, not adding lanes, but adding systems that'll help, basically accomplish that same goal of relieving congestion and increasing safety. So that's really it in a nutshell.
Follow up?
Yes.
Are the CCT cameras throughout the system part of the ITS?
Yes, they are.
Do you know if there's any legislation that governs all of the ITS system? Is the legislature involved with this at all?
Legislature that I'm specifically with the cameras, or
with the entire ITS system? Are they a stakeholder? Is the legislature a stakeholder?
Any user of the system is considered a stakeholder. So if they drive the roadways, they would be a stakeholder as a member of the public. So I guess yes, but I'm not aware of them, having any legislation or anything directly to do with ITS. I don't know if there's a more specific question you have, but
well, if there's follow-up, is there legislation that governs what they can and cannot do with the system?
Field that the national architecture governs all the other architecture. So I believe the Congress, at the federal level, probably gave Federal Highways an initiative to set up this architecture under which the states follow this general larger guidance. And our architecture needs to follow the state guidance. And everybody has had a chance to participate, whether or not they did participate in the development of the architecture itself, especially in this round. That's, we had a number of people at our work groups. It was open to the public. It was open to anybody who wanted to show up. So, yes, I think it was, it did come down from the legislature that this is something, at some level, that this is something that we need to do
The state
as
the
an
state
MPO. I think it started at the federal level, but our state, I'm sure they have some participation in it. And as far as the cameras go, some of those are security cameras. Other ones are open to the public. Anybody can look at them. Ones on bridges that are homeland security issue, critical infrastructure that, they need to make sure that there's nobody putting a bomb on, whatever situation. Those go directly to the, the state TCM? TMC, which is the Transportation Management Center in Concord, and those cameras are closed to the public, but those are for their own security reasons. Everything else is just for general information for people, so that you can see the road conditions or anything else. And I don't know if New Hampshire has specifically commented. Our legislature has specifically commented on the merits of that, or their will of how they want those cameras used, but we are, as an MPO, just following, you know, federal regulations, you know, being consistent with what our role as an MPO has been defined as.
My last question.
I was just going to add one more piece of clarification specifically for the recording of video on public spaces. There is New Hampshire law that governs that DOT and Coast, anybody else who has cameras in the public eye have to follow.
Thank you. Yes.
My last question was, is the ITS architecture connected with the with any federal transportation funding? Like, must each state adopt and incorporate the ITS architecture in order to get federal funding for its highways? That's my last question.
If you have an ITS project identified in your TIP or STIP, long-range plan, and in order to receive federal aid funds, there has to be a regional architecture in place, a statewide ITS architecture. So yes, it is a condition of receiving funds for those types of projects, but the project be included in the regional statewide ITS architecture. Another reason for having a regional ITS architecture is so that systems talk to each other. If you have a corridor that crosses jurisdictions and you're doing a signal interconnect type of project, you want to make sure that the technologies out there have the ability to talk with each other, coordinate that throughout the corridor. So that's just another kind of fundamental reason to have a regional architecture, so that all these systems communicate with each other and work them throughout the corridor that's crossing jurisdictional lines.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? There's a motion on the, whoops, yes?
I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. Question about, it seems to me we have, if your concern and your ultimate goal is to alleviate congestion along these corridors as you want, it seems to me we have the mechanisms already in place to signalize, to do, I mean, that was the only thing specifically you mentioned, but we already have the mechanisms in place to handle congestion. So why are we building a bureaucracy hierarchy that we already seem to have the capability to do? It seems like regional commissions as well communicate with one another, and we can sort of alleviate those systems now. So I don't understand why creating this system.
Well, we're not creating the system. The system's already been created, and we're just following the rules that we're required to as an MPO. And
So are you saying if you didn't implement this, you would somehow be penalized?
Well, like Lee was saying, it would be difficult to receive funding for these ITS components of other projects. Like a lot of these ITS solutions, if you were to, you know, let's say on 125, you were going to create a new signalized intersection. In order to get those ITS components so that that signal could communicate with other signals along the corridor, whether or not it was in the same jurisdiction, that's the other issue. Because you want the technology along the system to be the same technology so that you can maximize the benefit. You need to have this ITS in place in order to receive money, this ITS architecture. The ITS itself, if we did not have this architecture, this was the problem. Before we had it was you would get these systems that couldn't communicate, and so it was really inefficient. It was a waste of taxpayer money, and this is a way to make sure that these investments you're getting the maximum benefit out of these investments. And these investments are also a lot less expensive for, relieving congestion and some of these other, issues that come along with our transportation system than adding another lane. We don't need to spend $800 million, to expand another roadway to double the capacity if we can just squeeze more out of the system by, expending, $1 million as opposed to the $800 million on doing ITS solutions along the corridor so that people have more information, so they're safer. The signals talk to each other so that you can smoothly go through and you don't just go green, red light, and you're getting green lights all the way through on a coordinated, in a coordinated way, either direction, through different communities so that you don't hit Somersworth and now, from Dover, and now the system is coordinated on a completely different, timing schedule for the lights. So it's really to, maximize your benefit of your transportation system as you have it for the least, overall cost, and that's a big goal, because it is so expensive to, acquire right-of-way so you can continue expanding roads. Landowners don't like to have the right-of-way taken from them in any way, so it's, it's an effort to avoid all those types of things. So,
can you tell me where it's been implemented so we can actually see something in action?
All
Has it been implemented?
Let's 95, the open lane tolling. That's an ITS solution right there.
I'm sorry, the what?
The open road tolling, where you have the high-speed tolling.
Oh,
if you
okay.
looked at the congestion there before on, say, 4th of July weekend, you're backed up almost to the Mass border. Now when you look at that, you can go through almost any time, and there is no congestion at those toll booths, and that is an ITS solution. That's getting more out of your interstate system without adding lanes, and that's the goal.
And just one final question, how much money are we talking about? I mean, is each regional commission allotted a certain amount of money for their projects, or how does that work?
It's incorporated into our long-range plan of project lists. It's incorporated with all of our projects. So you would have a list of projects that you go to communities, you find out the projects that they need, what the needs are that they have, and then we have this architecture that gives us a number of options for how to. They basically are add-ons to projects. So like if you're going to do an intersection project, you go and look at your ITS architecture, and it says, we need to add, for this type of project, we want to have this type of signal or this type of, whatever it is. And it kind of is a component of a larger project oftentimes. And so this is a way to identify those ahead of time so that you don't put it in and then have to go and rip up the intersection again and throw down, the new, whatever it is, if it's a sensor so that you know that there's traffic waiting at the light or whatever it is that's an ITS solution, that would be built in with the project. So the goal is to make sure that when you're doing projects, you're doing everything you need to do at one time, and you don't need to go back and have that huge expenditure again to basically do something you could have done in one swipe.
So aren't you kind of stepping on the toes of the different planning departments, though, in the communities? Because that's their function, is to determine what they need for their entity, what they need for their intersections or their projects. Isn't that sort of duplicating what they already do?
We're assisting them in a lot of ways because they need to receive federal funding for these projects. It needs to go through us. It needs to be on the Transportation Improvement Program, which is a 4-year plan, and to get on the Transportation Improvement Program, it needs to be on the Long-Range Transportation Plan. So this is assisting communities developing their projects and making sure that, the projects that are going through have all the components that they need, because not every planning commission, local town planner, and a lot of towns don't even have their own planner, have the capability or the knowledge or the expertise in these fields to know that, hey, I need to put this in with our project. Or, I guess there are some limitations at the local level sometimes, and we have the ability to assist them, making sure that the project is what it needs to be for the wider region.
I hear what you're saying, and I guess what strikes me when you just said that is if you've got a town that doesn't have a planner, you folks come in, they automatically, quote, get the grant money, versus another entity who, say, doesn't have a plan, and they decide, maybe I don't want federal funds, we just want to do our project here.
You're allowed to do that.
Yes, you're cool.
Yeah. You're allowed to, if you're using local funds to do a project, you can do what you want on your road in your town.
You're not coming in and saying, because
No.
you're doing this project, we can now sort of put this on top of what you're doing.
No, we wouldn't.
Yes.
And also, I don't know, just this might be a helpful clarification for some people, but the ITS architecture itself is not a project. It's really kind of more like a textbook or a guidebook. And all of the communities volunteer to participate in this process or not. So,
Yeah.
as we just established, they don't have to do this, but it's there so that we waste less taxpayer dollars constantly replacing old systems, with systems that aren't effective. So, this question came up at the Rockingham Planning Commission this week as well. I think there's a lot of misconception about what the ITS report is, and although it does identify specific projects, the ITS architecture itself doesn't allocate funding. It doesn't say these projects are going to be constructed. It simply identifies things that we have a reasonable assumption are going to be built and need some sort of ITS treatment. And so the document is there to help us understand what to do in the future.
Yeah, really, opportunities is what it's outlining for implementing some of these solutions.
Can we move the question, please?
Okay. I have a motion to move the question that takes precedence over the other motion. Is there a second to move the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of moving the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. We'll now move the motion to accept this plan and present it to the policy committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Abstain since this is my first time here.
Okay. Motion carries. Item 4. 4.1 Long Range Transportation Plan. Mark, please.
All right, I wanted to just have a brief discussion about the long-range transportation plan to let everybody know what the status is with the plan at this point. The long-range transportation plan, just so you know, is a federally required plan for MPOs that extends 20 years beyond where we are today, basically. And we're looking at it this year because it's we're coming close to that 20-year horizon. So we have made the decision, along with our partner agencies, New Hampshire DOT, Federal Highways, Federal Transit, DES, EPA, that we're going to change our horizon year to 2040 from 2035. And this also changes our open analysis years, which are the years that we run our air quality conformity analysis in on our transportation model to show that we are within budget for the the standards and budget for pollutants, air pollutants in the state. So we had a discussion. We're changing a few of those years. It's actually going to make it so we have fewer open analysis years to run each time, which is great. It makes our process a little bit faster, a little more streamlined. Along with that, we are taking a look at the Metro Plan project list, which has not been updated in a little while. Dan and I went through the current one, and it looks like a lot of the projects that were on there are completed already, either by highway safety, the districts, locally, through some other type of program. And it's really time to repopulate that. So what we've been doing is using the information we received from project solicitation, where last spring, I think it was spring of 2011, we went out to communities and talked to them about transportation needs and projects in their community. We use those recommendations from communities to generate a master list of projects, and currently we are kind of sorting through the projects, basically identifying projects that are eligible for federal funding, which ones need local funding to be completed or state funding, which ones are very pressing versus which ones are, let's say we have a bridge that's perfectly fine for carrying traffic, but it's maybe the road could be a little bit wider, so it's classified as functionally obsolete. Those would probably be a little bit lower on the list. And our goal over the next few weeks is basically to combine the two lists, the old master plan list, make sure that those projects aren't overlapping with this new list, bring these back to communities just to confirm that these are the projects that the community is interested in. And what it looks like right now is that because most of our projects that we receive from communities are you know, pedestrian safety projects, bike pedestrian safety projects, or, you know, bridge projects to address the red list bridges in our region, which we have the highest percentage of red list bridges in the state in our region. And